Hey there. Big meeting coming up with those Scandinavian investors, right? And they're all about sustainable tech. Well, get this. We're diving deep into qbsite, a Swedish incubator that's making waves in the green tech scene. Think of this as your secret weapon for that meeting.
What's fascinating about qbsite is they're not just dipping their toes into sustainability, they're going all in. We're talking about incubating companies that could seriously disrupt industries with their innovative approaches to global challenges.
Okay, so we've got their website, project descriptions, even the founder's LinkedIn profile. What's the headline here? What makes qbsite stand out?
Their approach is incredibly diverse and forward-thinking. We're not just talking about incremental improvements here. They're tackling things like autonomous logistics for remote areas. Imagine the sustainability impact there. And even systems that use waste heat from computing to heat buildings.
That last one is huge. Turning a problem into a solution. Classic sustainable thinking. But tell me more about how they're using cutting-edge tech. The website mentioned AI and blockchain.
They're weaving it into everything. For instance, their product traceability project uses something called smart screws, basically tiny RFID tags embedded right into the product, and blockchain technology to track a product's entire life cycle.
Hold on. So every step from raw materials to the consumer's hands is completely transparent.
Exactly. This granular traceability is a game changer for ethical sourcing and supply chain transparency, something investors are craving in today's market.
I'm seeing the appeal already. What else caught your eye in their project lineup?
Their XMAP project is incredible. They're using drones equipped with LiDAR and gamma ray sensors for both radiation detection and high-resolution 3D mapping.
Wow, talk about a multi-tool. But what kind of radiation are we talking about detecting? And what's the resolution like on those 3D maps?
They're detecting everything from naturally occurring radioactive materials to potential leaks from industrial sites. And the 3D maps. They're detailed enough to pinpoint individual trees, power lines, even cracks in building facades. The applications, especially for environmental monitoring and infrastructure management, are massive.
This all seems meticulously thought out, which makes me want to learn more about the mastermind behind qbsite, their founder, right? Rolandas Rimdeka.
Yes, and his background is as impressive as qbsite's projects.
So let's talk about Rolandas. Anything on that LinkedIn profile that screams, this guy is building something special?
Well, his experience is incredibly relevant to qbsite's mission. He's got a background in automotive engineering, which we know is shifting towards electric, and he's even worked on electromobility projects.
Okay, so he's got his finger on the pulse of where things are headed, but what about the sustainability angle?
He's been involved in that world for longer than most. His LinkedIn shows he's worked on projects related to radiation protection and sustainable energy solutions.
It's like all of his experiences have led him to qbsite.
And that's not all. He's clearly passionate about fostering the next generation of innovators. His LinkedIn shows him actively mentoring startups and contributing to industry forums.
That's got to be a huge plus for companies at qbsite. Having access to a founder who's so plugged in and invested in their success, it's not just about the funding, it's about the guidance and the network.
Exactly. And speaking of qbsite's approach, their incubator handbook is really something else. It's not your typical corporate jargon. It's clear they've created an environment where innovation can thrive.
What stood out to you? Is there anything particularly unique about their philosophy?
Well, they emphasize diversity, trust, and open communication. But they go beyond just listing them as values. They've designed their entire program around these principles.
So how does that actually play out in the incubator setting?
They have structured workshops and mentorship programs that encourage collaboration and knowledge sharing. And they prioritize building a diverse cohort of startups, which leads to a wider range of perspectives and solutions.
That makes a lot of sense. You need that cross-pollination of ideas to really push boundaries, especially in a field as complex and multifaceted as sustainable tech.
Absolutely. And it's not just about work at qbsite. They also emphasize the importance of work-life balance, even encouraging fun at work.
Wait, hold on. I remember reading about a team-building trip they organized where they all went sailing in the archipelago. Is that the kind of fun we're talking about?
Exactly. They believe that a happy team is a productive team, and that fostering a positive and supportive culture is essential for creativity and innovation.
Okay, that's brilliant. Not just good for morale, but probably great for attracting top talent, too.
Speaking of talent, we have to talk about one qbsite startup in particular. They're called V2So, and they're developing something game-changing.
V2So, right. They were on my radar, too. Something to do with electric vehicles, right?
Yes. They're developing a system that turns electric vehicles into backup power sources for homes and businesses.
Okay, that's smart. We're talking about a world increasingly reliant on renewable energy, which, let's face it, can be intermittent. Having your EV double as a giant battery, that's peace of mind and a huge selling point for EVs in general.
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of qbsite identifying and nurturing a startup with its finger on the pulse of the market, not just solving a problem, but anticipating future needs. And that brings us back to your investor meeting.
Right, we've covered a ton of ground here. For our listener who's about to walk into that meeting, how do they distill all of this into a winning pitch? What's the key message they need to drive home?
They need to position qbsite not just as an incubator, but as a visionary leader in the sustainable tech revolution.
Okay, I like that. But how do they actually convey that? It can't just be, trust me, they're visionaries.
They need to tell the qbsite story, talk about their unique, holistic approach to sustainable innovation, and back it up with concrete examples.
So hit those key projects we discussed. The traceability initiative, the drone mapping, and especially V2. So that's a home run for investors looking for disruptive technologies.
Exactly. Showcase how qbsite's selective process and nurturing environment are producing companies poised to make a real-world impact. And don't forget about Rolandus.
Right. The founder's story is crucial here. He's not just some figurehead. His experience across automotive engineering, electromobility, sustainable energy, that all feeds directly into qbsite's DNA.
It all connects, and that's a powerful narrative for investors.
This has been incredibly insightful. Any final thoughts for our listener before they head into that meeting?
If qbsite can accomplish so much with their focused approach, imagine the possibilities if every incubator embraced sustainability as a core principle. That's the big picture thinking that gets investors excited about the future.
Food for thought. All right, there you have it. Your qbsite deep dive, tailor-made for that big investor meeting. Go get 'em.